Today we're going to talk about something pretty profound, a story from Michael A. Singer's book, The Surrender Experiment. It's all about this wild idea. What happens when you stop trying to control your life and just let it unfold? So let me ask you this directly. What if you just stopped fighting? What if you let go of all your detailed plans and your personal preferences and just said yes to whatever life brought you? Well, that's the exact question that kicked off Michael Singer's incredible, unbelievable journey. So, where does this all start? It starts with a problem I think every single one of us knows intimately. It's that voice in your head, the one that's always talking, always judging, always worrying. Singer had a great name for it, his inner roommate. You know, the one who just never, ever pays rent and never shuts up. When he was a young guy, all Singer wanted was some inner peace. And he had this huge realization. The real problem wasn't the world outside. Nope. The biggest obstacle, the source of all his anxiety, was the nonstop chatter inside his own mind. That was the voice he knew he had to deal with.
This realization didn't just lead to a new thought, it led to a life-changing decision. He decided he was going to stop fighting that inner voice, and instead, he would conduct an experiment on his own life, based on one simple but totally radical rule.
And he called that rule surrender. Now hold on, because for Singer, surrender doesn't mean giving up or waving a white flag. Not at all. It was an active choice to stop listening to his inner roommate's demands and to just accept whatever life put in front of him. It was a massive shift from constant resistance to simple acceptance. And this part is so crucial. We're not talking about weakness or just letting things happen to you. In Singer's philosophy, this kind of surrender is actually a form of incredible strength. It's about actively accepting what is and putting a deep trust in the flow of life itself.
Okay, so this is where the story just gets absolutely wild. You would think, right, that letting go of all your ambitions would lead to a pretty quiet, maybe even boring life. Well, for Michael Singer, the complete opposite happened. His journey became this beautiful, perfect paradox.
Seriously, Singer's only goal was to be a hermit and meditate alone in the woods. That's it. But life just kept showing up. A request to teach comes along. His experiment says, say yes. A totally random opportunity to learn computer programming pops up. He says yes again. And each yes started to snowball, one after the other, until he accidentally, unintentionally, built a billion-dollar software company right there from his spiritual retreat in the woods.
And that's the whole point. None of this was his plan. Remember, his plan was to be a hermit. It turns out that by surrendering his own little agenda, he discovered that life's plan for him was bigger, richer, and way more incredible than anything his own mind could have ever cooked up.
But what happens when that flow of life stops being a gentle stream and turns into a raging flood? Well, Singer's entire philosophy was about to face its biggest test yet. I mean, by every measure, his experiment was a huge success. He had inner peace, he had worldly success, all from this one simple rule of letting go. Everything was going perfectly. And then, that knock came. A moment that was about to threaten everything. Everything he'd built.
A knock at the door, and suddenly the FBI's raiding his company. He finds himself at the center of a massive federal investigation. Can you just imagine the fear, the anger, the instinct to just fight back with everything you've got?
But instead of panicking, instead of resisting, Singer applied his experiment to this ultimate test. He surrendered to the situation. He treated this terrifying investigation as just another event in life's flow. It was, without a doubt, the hardest thing he'd ever done. But by choosing acceptance over fear, he kept his inner peace through it all. And in the end, he was completely, 100% exonerated.
So, what can we possibly take away from this unbelievable story? Well, this whole experiment reveals some really profound truths about how life works when we finally decide to get out of our own way.
Singer's whole life becomes this powerful lesson. It teaches us that real peace doesn't come from controlling everything, but from letting go of the ego's constant need to control. Every yes opens a door you didn't even know was there, showing you that surrender is the ultimate strength, not a weakness. And maybe the biggest lesson of all is that life's intelligence, its grand plan, is so much greater than our own.
Which, of course, brings it all back to you. After hearing a story like this, you have to wonder, right? What incredible, unplanned, and extraordinary journey is just waiting for you if you could just bring yourself to say yes?